This is the Sunday Matinee. I Am The Wiz. I don't have a topic today, but I thought that I could do another review. Yeah, I'm just churning them out, baby. That's just what I'm a machine when it comes to reviewing movies. So I'm going to review the 2023 MCU movie, The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's the newest one that came out in theaters this summer. It's out on Disney Plus right now, so I decided to review that. And that film is starring Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Gillan, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, and Dave Bautista, and it's directed by James Gunn. I guess I should give you my thoughts of the last two Guardians of the Galaxy. This seems to be the more popular of the MCU properties. So it's definitely more popular than Thor. I think maybe Iron Man might be a little more popular. Probably a lot more popular, now that I come to think of it. But Guardians of the Galaxy is one that actually a lot of people seem to like. They like the characters, and they like the way the story was, especially in the first one. I'm kind of weird. I did not like the first one that much, but I actually liked the second one. And I know that's really the opposite for everybody else. So I didn't know really where to come on to this on 3 or how I was going to feel about it. So it's going to be interesting to see my thoughts are going to be on this. So why don't we just get into it right now? Let's get into the review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, directed by James Gunn. Alright, so before I get started, I'm going to let you know this is a light spoiler review. I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of spoilers in the review, but other than that, I won't have a spoiler section, so if you want to go right into my final thoughts, go right ahead, or come back when you're ready. If I spoil anything, it'll be very light, so just bear that in mind. I'm going to just come out right and say it. I think this is my favorite of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I think this is actually very good. It does have, I think, one big flaw, and it's a big flaw, but I do enjoy this movie a lot, and I think it's the best of the 3. I'll even say it right now. It's probably the best of the MCU movies since Endgame. I think I said that last year about Multiverse of Madness. I actually really liked Multiverse of Madness, but I actually liked this one a lot more, which I was kind of surprised by, because again, I wasn't a fan of the first one. I thought the second one was good, not great, but this one I actually reacted to a lot differently than the other two, and I'll get into why that is. And it's because the story that they have in this movie really works. Beginning of the movie, Rocket gets critically injured, and they have to find a way to make him better, but they find out that he has proprietary tech in his body that if they try to use a med pack or try to heal him, he will die. So then they have to find out exactly where to get the codes and everything to heal him. And as they are doing that, they are also doing flashbacks as to Rocket when he was under the High Evolutionary, which is the villain of this movie. Let me get the name of the guy, I'm sorry. Played by Chukwudi Iwuji. Oh my god, I'm going to butcher that guy's name, I'm so sorry. The flashbacks and the thing with Rocket when he was an experiment is actually emotionally really well done. I was actually really surprised. You really feel for Rocket and you feel for his friends as they're going through the things that are happening in those flashbacks. And it really fleshes Rocket out from just a wisecracking character into someone really lovable and really likable at the end of the movie, which I was, again, really surprised by. I think that actually is what happens with all the characters in this movie, especially Drax, Mantis, and Nebula. Those characters seem to get the most love in this movie, and I think it really helps when you're watching this movie. I'm going to say right now, like the first 2 acts are almost perfect. They are emotionally charged. They are really well done on the drama part, and the comedy works really well, and then the action is really good. Like the first 2 acts are really good, and I was entertained and was really liking what I was watching, and in the back of my head thinking, could this be a 4-star movie? Could this be one of the best movies I've seen in the MCU? Could this be better than, like Endgame? Like I was really debating like if this is going to be the best MCU movie. And then I had to go to the bathroom. I paused the movie, came back, and I accidentally checked the time, and I was like, oh, there's an hour left of this? And by this point, the main plot line that was in the movie essentially resolved itself. And then there is an hour left of the movie, and I looked at the time and went, how are they going to justify this? And honestly, the third act is way too damn long, which is a problem that a lot of MCU movies have, is that they don't know when to end. Honestly, I was a comic book fan when I was younger, and I got back into comic books when I was in college, like in 2021. Our time, I got into a lot of the more I guess, independent comic books. But the problem that some comic books really have is that they get into the weeds way too damn much and just don't decide on what to cut or not. And it's something that a movie really needs to do. It's one of the main problems that I have, along with a number of other problems that I had with the Zack Snyder version of Watchmen. It was too long, but it also didn't have enough to actually keep me engaged. And in this movie, I was engaged until the third act, and then the third act dragged. And it dragged to a point where I honestly was like wondering, why are they going through all this extraneous stuff? You had a good emotional center there. This movie would have been a lot better if that main plot line resolved itself at the end. Because there was about 45 minutes to an hour left after that, I just sat there and went, I don't know. Okay. That's not good. That's a big problem I have. And all the MCU movies, I would say, God, even before Endgame, I would say at a certain point, all the MCU movies needed to be over 2 hours long. 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes. And there was no reason to do that. From that point on, it's like every movie needed to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. And the longer you make a movie, the more difficult it is to actually keep it engaging without it like bogging itself down, getting too much into the weeds. And this movie does that, unfortunately. Now, I'm not going to say that it made the movie bad. I just think if this was done really well, it probably would have been one of the best MCU movies. I can't say that right now because I'm looking at it I'm looking at it and going, I don't think it justifies its length. And the third act, I think, just crawls at the end of the movie. It's way too much, and that's my main criticism. The ending is good. I like how the film resolves itself. I don't like how it resolves itself in the end, which, from what I recall, this was going to be the last Guardians of the Galaxy film. But then they did a teaser saying, oh, we might be back. I'm like, why? Why are you doing that? You drain the emotional resonance of the film by not just ending what it is. And if you've seen the post-credit stinger, you know what I'm talking about. I don't like how it ended in that sense. So if you want to just ignore the post-credits, go right ahead. I understand. But since I didn't, and I know what happens, I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. That part of it disappointed me. Let me get into specifics here. Let's go into performances. Honestly, the performances are really good in this movie. Let me get started with some of the performances that I was kind of about. Well, not but here's the performances that are good, but not enough for me to like really praise them. I think Chris Pratt's Chris Pratt. He was fine in it. Zoe Saldana's okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some cameos by Nathan Fillion. I like Nathan Fillion, but he's only in it so little. Will Poulter's all right as Adam Warlock. Here's the 4 best performances. Bradley Cooper as Rocket is really good. He does a really good job as Rocket's voice in this movie. Karen Gillan, I think, is an actress that gets more and more underrated as time goes on, but the reason why is because she is under a lot of makeup all the time, so I don't think she gets the right recognition that she really deserves. So I want to point her out. I think she's really good. I'm going to butcher her name. I'm sorry. Pom Klementieff. She plays Mantis. She's also really good in this movie. I actually really liked her performance as Mantis. But I think the best performance is actually Dave Bautista as Drax. Drax has been like a punchline in the last 2 movies, and they finally give him a little bit more than they have in other films. And it's actually a very effective performance. Dave Bautista is probably the best actor who was a wrestler, I think. Like, even better than The Rock or Dwayne Johnson. I think he honestly is the best of the wrestlers turned actors, and he continues to prove it. So a great performance by him. I guess the last thing I should get into is direction. James Gunn does a good job in this, but at the same time, some of the decisions that he made when it came to action, such as the first time you see Adam Warlock, some of the shot selections in some of the action scenes, I think the hallway action scene towards the end was okay. So I think in action, it's okay, but I think everything else is pretty good. I'm going to be really curious as to what he does with the DC universe, because Guardians of the Galaxy is very singular. And so was the Suicide Squad, the DCEU movie that he did that was a sequel to Suicide Squad, which, if you have not seen it, it's really good. Check it out. But his vision is incredibly his. And I don't know what he will do when it comes to DC universe, when it comes to the films. I'm really curious as to how that is. But from what I have seen, do I want him doing a Superman movie or a Batman movie? I don't think I do. I think he should be a director that is definitely sought after and is definitely somebody who I would want to see a movie from, because I think his vision is really good. But to spearhead an entire universe, I'm not so sure about that. I think that's a mistake by DC, but we'll see about that. But his direction is good in this movie. Okay, final thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I actually really like this. I will say that this is the best one since Endgame. I know I said that about Multiverse of Madness, but I think this is better than that. I think the length of the film kills it. Like Marvel, it is completely okay to make a 2-hour movie. It really is. It's fine. People are okay with it. It doesn't need to be 2.5 to 3 hours long every time. It really doesn't. It is okay to say, hey, we have 2 hours? Okay, end it. It's completely okay. It's fine. So hopefully they do that with the next one. I'm going to give this film 3.5 out of 5. I debated on 4, but I think 3.5 is pretty good on that one. I think that's actually more accurate. The length, I think, was a mistake. I think they should have cut it by at least 30 to 45 minutes. There is so much chaff in this movie, and I really think it could have had a few edits. It could have taken away a lot of the cruft in the film, and because of that, it went way too long. It's going to go down to about 3.5 stars, but still very good. I really like this movie. I think it's one of the best that the MCU's had lately, so if you have been debating on which ones to not watch and which ones to watch, I think this is one to watch. I think this is a really good MCU movie. That's 3.5 star out of 5 stars for Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. And before I go on the Sunday matinee, I guess I just want to talk about the MCU as a whole right now. I understand that a lot of people are starting to get, I guess, a little fed up with the MCU and everything, and I kind of agree. There's been talk that maybe they should reboot it after the disaster that was Secret Invasion. I heard a lot of people did not like that. I am not watching it. The last TV show from Marvel that I saw in its completion was Miss Marvel, and it was good, but I watched a couple of episodes of She-Hulk, and I could not sit through it. I thought it was bad. I know some like it. Good for you. I can't sit through it. So there's that. Loki Season 2 is probably something I'm going to check out, but honestly, at this point, I think the MCU is, after the Kang stuff is done, which is going to be another 2.5 years. Oh, Lord. After the Kang stuff is done, I think they should stop. Wait 5 years, reboot it. I think that's what they should do. They probably will not do it. They will probably do what they did with Spider-Man, say, oh, okay, well, we ended the Raimiverse. 2 years later, let's do the one with Andrew Garfield. They can't do that. They need to put more time away. And I like comic books, and I like comic book movies and superheroes. I'm getting tired of the MCU now. If they are going to continue this, they need to make some drastic changes. And the other problem, too, is they've killed a lot of their good villains. So I don't know what they could do moving forward. And then on top of that, sometimes with the movies, you have to have watched the TV shows in order to know what's going on. And that's a problem because the quality of the TV shows have not been good. They really haven't. Like, I think Loki, WandaVision, and again, I like Miss Marvel, but it's not fantastic. It's good, but I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. I think the MCU really needs to shake it up a little bit, or just stop and reboot after a good period of time. That's my opinion.